This week is all about taking in the sights and sounds of nature and getting away from the urban jungle. And what better way to do that than behind the wheel of this model? Hey, welcome to this edition of Road Warrior. I'm your host, Grant Roberson. Now this week we headed west in North Carolina, going about 6.5 hours one direction out to the mountain region, getting away from, again, the city living and getting more into nature, most specifically taking the sights and sounds of some great waterfalls. So to get us across the state in that 6.5 hour drive, we wanted some comfort, but we also wanted some utilitarian side once we got there, because we knew we were going to get off the beaten path and there's going to be some road harshness, or, well, the lack thereof. Now what we have here specifically is the 2020 Toyota Highlander, a mid-size crossover SUV, a mouthful that basically means it's going to deliver comfort, but that ruggedness when you need it. Now, referencing the Highlander as a mid-size is kind of understating what we're looking at, because really its overall length pushes it more into the upper mid-size segment. I kind of have that lineage where under 190 inches is truly mid-size. Over that really starts to get a lot more robust and bigger feeling. You can note that because it delivers that third row of comfort, which I'm a big fan of. Now overall, this vehicle is about 194 inches wheelbase, 112 width, pretty substantial at 76 inches, and height decent at 68 inches as well. Now what I like, the big number, is ground clearance around about 8 inches, really showing the utilitarian side of this vehicle, which truly shined when we got off the beaten path, because pretty much what our weekend consisted of was waterfall hunting. Now we have a book that shows off all the North Carolina waterfalls out towards the mountain area and other places, and we pretty much thought we had visited most, but every time we turned around, well, there just happened to be another. And thankfully in the area where we were in, once we kind of did all the North Carolina waterfalls, well, we scampered to Georgia, Tennessee, and even South Carolina. Now with the overall size and feel of this vehicle, I tend to lean more of calling it an SUV than any type of crossover. I've gotten the bad kind of mentality that crossover means quirky, small, and compact. This being far from the case. Now again, the SUV-like feel is prominent on the sides. Nice, robust feel and some modest design qualities. Now overall, it's got smooth edges, but right through here, a lot of designers are pretty much going with that standard midline. But here on the Highlander, a nice lower element that sweeps up. A little bit of that fluid architecture gives movement to this vehicle even when it's standing still. Anytime we head to a mountainous area, there always seems to be one vehicle that stands out, specifically the Subaru Outback. Almost at every turn, we see another version. That was until we saw, well, almost as equal Highlanders on the road. Pretty much Toyota almost staking their claim to Subaru, saying, hey, we can do this just as good as you. And in my opinion, well, they're doing it better on the outside. Now, while Subaru has that wagon-esque appeal, Highlander has more of that SUV quality that I prefer, and where you see it is around the haunches, the overall SUV look, and that ruggedness appeal. Now at the four corners, what you're going to see is some decent beefy tires, 235/55 wrapping a 20-inch wheel, as well as that rubber cladding that sweeps around the back and there at the front. One place that's missing is right here through the middle. My only concern when we went off the beaten path is the scrapes and dings that could come from the road harshness, the gravel being thrown up. But one thing to note, this is the Platinum Edition, so that may look a little awkward when they're trying to dress things up. Now for any Platinum Edition, that typically means it's going to be really blinged out when it comes to chrome, but thankfully the Highlander subdues the overall look. Really just a touch of chrome here and there, right along this area, up on the roof rails, modest approach at the four corners, in the grille warfare, and at the tail end. Now other things I like with the Highlander is innovation, smart key systems, and pretty much means you can walk right up to the front, place your hand inside, it knows you're there, unlocks with ease. When you want to walk away, just simply rub right here, locks it up. Now, one thing I always talk about is access at every point. You have it at the back, at the front doors, but do you have it here on the second row? And unfortunately, just not the case. How hard is it to put this innovation at all points? But one thing to note, once you're on the passenger side and do that, well, it easily opens all the areas. Now, as you sweep around, this is the business end of things. What I call the weekend warrior, or in this case, all the time warrior, because, well, plenty of acres. Now for us, it was only 2 adults, so, well, this was pretty much too big for us, but so we laid the third row down, giving us tons of area to put our extra gear and such. Now, as for design, typical rear hatch back here, overhang, really elongating the look of the roof line. Nice huge bank of glass. You're going to see body color pretty much everywhere around, and again, that platinum look, that chrome accent, basically only right through here on the emblem. Otherwise, pretty much a nice subdued approach. Headlight and taillight assemblies, really aggressive, sweeping around the vehicle and modestly protruding out. Again, adding a little bit of curvaceousness, no chiseling up on this vehicle whatsoever. But the big story is what lies in here. And what you're going to find is an electronic release button here on the hatch, also on the key fob, or you can go motion, which is basically waving your leg, and it's going to open right up. Now, once it rises to the occasion, what you're going to see is around about 16 cubic feet here behind the third row. Not too bad. Nice horizontal platform, fairly decent lift here, but again, with the angle of the glass, it's pretty much going to be about in this area. Now, once this is laid flat, you're going to see about 48 cubic feet behind the second row. Once all the seating is laid flat, that's a whopping 84 cubic feet. Plenty of acreage really to handle huge items or transform it to people and cargo all in one. Now, under the cargo floor, not really meant to store items, but what it has is the jack accessories for retrieving the full-size spare that's underneath this vehicle. You just crank it down when you need it. Also, a place to store the rear tonneau cover that can go into place to hide the items that you may place inside this cargo area. What you also see is a split rear bench, kind of an 80, 20, 70, 30 with foldable rear headrest, because when you have 3 rows and no one's in place, you're going to have blind spots when these are up. But naturally, when people are there, well, the importance is carrying people, so blind spots be what they be. Now, to lay them flat, not too hard. Pretty much you're going to use this to pull it up, but use this to lay it flat. Just simply do like that. Easily folds down. Now, to pull it back up, one thing you're going to note is it is Velcro, so it stays into place. Just simply grab it right here, pull it up. You're going to get to about this point. That means you got to do the rest with this latch. That also means, well, it's reclinable here at the back, so instead of having a typical vertical positioning, well, the back seat passengers in the nosebleed section can actually set pretty decent comfort. Now, the fuel size on this all-wheel drive model is around about 17.1 gallons. If you go with the standard, you're going to get a little bit bigger fuel, around about 17.9. Now, what that means is we got an average range of around about 350, 370 miles on one tank, and pretty much over the whole weekend, after it's all said and done, we put about 1,250 miles in this vehicle in just a 4-day stint. So pretty much that meant we had a lot of traveling. Also meant, well, we stopped for gas just a few times, because not too bad on fuel economy here, around about 20 miles per gallon, 27 on the high side. Average it out somewhere in between, around about 23 miles per gallon. Now, going to the fill-up area, let's talk about security. This vehicle is always secure, pretty much having a release there on the dash. Once you press it, opens right up. Now, they are Throwback Thursday with the cap system, but I don't care either way. Just flip over a coin whether you prefer that or the capless. Now, with the grip at the 4 corners with that all-wheel drive system, I expected some decent power under the hood, and that's exactly what the Highlander delivered. A 3.5 liter V6 engine. Now, it's going to have 295 horses and 263 foot-pounds of torque, and kind of gave me that reassurance that if I got into the mud and the muck, well, it could definitely get me the power to get out of it. Now, the engine is coupled to an 8-speed automatic transmission. Now, when the Highlander debuted, certainly it had more of a crossover-like feel, but as it's moved and advanced and gotten more into the SUV market, well, it started to, well, shed itself of any crossover-like well, look. And where you see it most evident is up front. Crossovers today have more of a sculpting and chiseling and angling down the front, almost minimizing the grille warfare. But with the Highlander setting its prowess in the SUV arena, well, this is what it delivers now. More of a blunt force trauma, huge open face grille, almost looking more like the Tundra trucks and the other SUVs in the family lineage. Obviously wanting to fit in and blend in with the big boys. Really nice broad grille, dark in accent, again a hint of chrome, but pretty much body color all the way around. Nice little niches for the headlight assemblies, and again wrapping all the way around. This really delivering that SUV-like feel that I prefer. The Highlander has decent scale and prowess on the open road. Basically, its overall size demands attention, both from everyone around it and behind the wheel. Now, for those that are used to smaller SUVs or even crossovers, that could be a kind of a learning curve, not necessarily in the scratch and dent manner, but just getting accustomed to the overall size and feel of this vehicle. But one thing that's helping with that is technology. Pretty much we're seeing across the board, but specifically here on the Platinum Edition Highlander, the surround view, cameras on the mirrors at the front and at the back, not to mention parking sensors at the front as well and at the back. That really gives the driver a commanding view without having to even turn their head. Another big feature, like we mentioned with the blind spots back there with people or the headrest, is what's happening there with the rear view. Something again we're seeing across the industry. Instead of the old standard mirror, you just simply pull a switch. Now you see a video signal from the back, giving you again great visual presence for any driver behind the wheel. When it comes to legroom, you can find decent numbers, around about 40 inches in the front, 41 inches in the second row, and in the third row around about 27 inches. But one thing to note, with the amount of legroom in the second row, most occupants can easily slide forward and still have plenty of comfort. That's going to equate to around about 30, maybe 31 inches for the third row. And the way you do it is real simple. Now, most second rows have a bar down below, but instead Toyota puts them here on the outer side. This lever sliding it forward, this folding the seat back. Now it's kind of a two-step system. First off, pulling this, releasing the seat back, then you can simply pull this handle and it lays the rest of the way forward. For the Platinum in the second row, you're going to find captain's chairs for the third, room enough for three. Now when it comes to leg room, what you're going to find is the bench style seating is about as low as it can go, really tight to the ground. That means most people are going to find their knees really up above their normal position, but overall this area is reserved for smaller individuals or really most times kids. When it comes to creature comfort seat in the second row, for the captain chairs, you will have nice elbow support on the inner side. For the outer side, you'll find elbow support there on the door. Cup holders in between the occupants in the middle. And for the third row, they'll be found on the outer side. Lastly is climate control, and thankfully here on the Highlander, due mainly to its overall size, it is a tri-zone system with controls there on the back of the center console. The complaint department from backseat drivers would be rampant if there wasn't connectivity, and here on the Highlander you're going to have the form of 2 USBs and a traditional power supply there on the back of the front center console. Now when it comes to the infotainment system, you're going to find a huge touchscreen system up high on the dash, barely a glance down for the driver. For the home screen, you're going to find this quadrant-like display, climate on the left, entertainment up top, phone down below, navigation on the right. If you want to go full screen, just simply click on it. What you'll see is the entertainment, but again, you still see the climate. Now what I like is the ability to kind of transition this. Just simply swipe left, the climate goes over here to the right, entertainment on the left, and vice versa. Just below this infotainment system, you will find quite a bit of climate controls, even though you have these right here, but this is kind of just a shortcut. These may be more of what you interact with, but I kind of fell in between, never really homing in on which one I liked. I did like both of them. Now what you have for both front occupants is heated and cooled seats, nice temperature select on the outer side, fan right through the middle, as well as the mode select. Everything's really nice and symmetric, so I'm not a big fan, of course, of this button system for the fan speed, but almost you can feel the contourness of the button, so if you have to, you can really kind of home in on it almost without looking. But in certain cases, if the driver can't look down, this again is at the eye level almost of the driver, and you can simply just reach over. One thing that was a little bit more difficult to interact with was the fan speed on this, but again, just simply click the buttons and go up and down. Tons of options for storage, both for your drinks over there on the right on the door, as well as on the dash with these little niches that sweep all the way across. Really, this upper tray allowing you to put your devices and charge them with this little pass-through right through here. Now down below you have another compartment and the connectivity in the form of multiple USBs and a traditional car outlet. Just below the dash, you will find dual cup holders positioned a little bit more forward towards the dash, springy material to hold the drinks with ease, various driving components down below, downhill descent, snow, as well as the auto stop, auto start feature. You can turn it on and off right here. Now, we did go off-road, but we didn't have to, well, use these controls, but it is there if you get into kind of more sticky situations than we did. Wireless charging is the big trend for our phones as of late, and thankfully Highlander has added that equipment here in the middle. Just simply take right here, slide it back, and you will find this position to set your so-equipped phone in. Now, one thing to note with my case on my phone, well, it just didn't, well, ever fit, which meant it never charged up. My wife's, however, with its case being a little bit more slender, did fit in quite easily. And just to note, there is an on and off button, and you can also see that light that illuminates to let you know whether it's charging or not. Once you raise up this battery area, you will find a deep compartment. Really could store anything you might want to throw in it, and also anything you might want to lose. Now there is this kind of mid tray here that you can move back and forth, and also the lower area that again is just going to kind of harness whatever you throw in it, and eventually you just kind of forget it's there, close this up, and well, just move on. The gauge cluster, nothing really to write home about. Analog, tach, and speedometer. Modest display there in the middle with some various functionality giving you up-to-date information. Plenty of controls here on the steering wheel. One thing to note, they are backlit, really easy to see at night. On the left side, this is changing the settings there on that LCD display. Right side for cruise control, this did have adaptive cruise control, allowing you to set the spacing as traffic builds. It slows down. As it opens up, the vehicle speeds back up to what you set. It also has lane awareness, various functions for the entertainment down below, and volume select over here on the left. This week we left the city, got into nature, and really experienced the sights and sounds, both of the fall colors and the waterfalls we got to experience. And there was one thing that got us there, the Toyota Highlander. And what we liked was its demeanor both on the open road and off the beaten path, handling the road harshness and coming out no worse for the wear. And thankfully, with the overall size that we really didn't have to experience because there's only two of us up front, we had plenty of room for cargo. But I liked the commanding view, the overall size, that SUV quality that the Highlander truly delivers. Now, as always, thanks for watching this edition of Road Warrior. Keep both hands on the wheel and eyes straight ahead.